Hi, I'm Hannah, your friendly neighborhood wine mom. I am shooting this on my cell phone and I'm rusty as heck at this, so please bear with me. So have some wine. I forgot what I say. Tonight's topic that I've gotten a lot of questions about, and I'm really excited to be finally making a video about this, is all about breastfeeding. I'm gonna give you my top tips to breastfeed more pleasantly. Disclaimer, I am not a lactation specialist. I am not a doctor. I'm not an expert on any of this. Everybody has their own opinion on breastfeeding and advice and tips and stuff. These are mine, take it or leave it. Breastfeeding is really not a one-size-fits-all experience. It's so different for so many people. And so all I can do is provide what's worked for me. And if it doesn't work for you, completely disregard everything I say. So tip number one for successful breastfeeding is hydrate. Whereas Wyatt would say, hydrate. It is so important that you're drinking water all day long when you're breastfeeding. And the way that I kind of pace it out for myself is I'll have an 8-ounce glass of water by me every time I nurse. I just keep refilling the same glass, and every time he latches, I make sure that I drink the entire glass. That's how I keep myself hydrated. That's how I hold myself accountable for drinking water, because breast milk uses so much water to make. It is so important that you're drinking a lot of water. And then when you're done, you can have a little wine. Speaking of wine, a lot of people ask me how I'm able to drink some wine while I'm nursing. Henry is asleep for the night. This is his long stretch, knock on wood. Just as importantly as getting enough water, I said that wrong. Just as important as getting enough water is making sure you're getting enough calories. Breastfeeding burns a lot of calories. And I know that right after childbirth, the first thing on a lot of people's minds is losing the weight, getting back in shape, all of that stuff, but really it's important to not think about that. You need the calories. If you're depriving your body of calories, it's not going to make enough milk. I'm not a scientist. I sound like that could be totally wrong. All I know is you need to make sure you're eating enough calories and you're eating enough food and healthy foods. There are a lot of foods that people say work for lactation. I haven't personally noticed too much of a difference. It's more for me whether or not I'm eating enough food. So try to keep your diet very balanced. Try to take your prenatal every day and make sure you're getting enough calories. It's very important for milk production. Next, breastfeed where you feel comfortable. It's really important, especially when you're trying to establish a breastfeeding relationship, because those first couple months are very key. It's really important to make sure that you are comfortable and relaxed. That will help the milk flow and let down more freely. And it's just gonna make your overall experience so much more pleasant and encourage you to keep going. So wherever you're going, make a breastfeeding plan. So say you're going to someone's house, where am I going to breastfeed? Where am I going to feel comfortable breastfeeding? And how am I going to do it? Is there a separate bedroom that I can go into breastfeed privately? Am I comfortable nursing in front of all of these people? How am I going to successfully breastfeed everywhere I go? And I try to do that every outing we take. I'm kind of a person at this point who will breastfeed anywhere. So if I'm in the car, as long as there's a car, I'm fine. I'll nurse in the car and that's totally fine. But even just having a plan of where and how I can breastfeed makes it so much easier and so much more doable. And feeling comfortable, I think, really benefits the flow and the letdown and that milk production. Next up is pumping. I'm gonna take a sip before I talk about pumping. I hate it. It is so one of my least favorite things ever, but it is so vital to increasing milk supply. But for real, the noise that my pump makes is like, I've never felt more unattractive in my life than when I'm pumping. It's just like your nipples are stretched to stretchiness you didn't think they had. It's just, pour me some more, Matthew. The next thing that's very important is establishing a line of communication around breastfeeding and seeking help if you need it. There are so many resources now online, through hospitals. There are classes offered for free at hospitals all around breastfeeding. And I think it's really important to have some resources that you can reach out to if you have any questions or you're not sure what to do. That is how I found out that I had DMER, which is dysphoric milk ejection reflex, was through a forum of moms that I actually connect with on the internet. I didn't know that it was a thing. It's basically a dopamine imbalance when you're nursing. So instead of the dopamine rising, it plummets. And so whenever I nurse, whenever any of my children have latched on, I get a feeling of being thirsty and homesick and like extreme dysphoria. And it's so bizarre. And I didn't know it was a thing until I saw it in a mom group that I'm in. So having a support system, having people to communicate with is so important on a breastfeeding journey because there are so many weird things that happen, but that's very, very important to just have a line of communication around breastfeeding because Lord knows I can't talk to this man about breastfeeding. He doesn't know anything. I try to talk to my husband and he's like, wait, what are boobs? And next is trying different nursing positions. There are so many different ways to nurse. It's not just that little cradle hold that you think of when you think of breastfeeding. There are so many different positions, and honestly, at different times in each of my kids' lives, different positions worked best for them. So for Henry, when we were just starting out, my letdown was very forceful. So he would choke on the milk if he was laying on his back. And so the way that it worked for him is when he was like up and down on my body, nursing like vertically. There are so many different ways to nurse, and if you look it up, there you can find out all the positions, and I would definitely try and just figure out, because it's the time when you're getting to know your baby, you don't really know what their preference is. So try a bunch of stuff, see how it works, and maybe there's something that your baby favors more than another position. Next is the official uniform of breastfeeding. Here is a hot tip for successful breastfeeding. 1, a stretchy tank underneath, stretchy, followed by a stretchy, like comfy shirt. And then when you go to nurse, this is what you do. You take this, you tuck it up over your head. That way you're not cold, you're not exposed. It's super cute. I'm just kidding. It's functional. And then you can pull this down. I have a breast pad sticking out. Sorry. And then you can take this out and like start nursing and either bring this back over to like shield, or if you're comfortable, which for me, I'm just comfortable not doing that, I'll just keep it back here. And then that way I'm not wearing this like undershirt for the day, basically. I'm wearing this. I look so much better. Next, if things are feeling uncomfortable for a prolonged amount of time, if your nipples are bleeding, if anything serious is happening, get your child checked at the pediatrician for a lip or tongue tie. It's really important to check and ask so that you can address it and figure out, kind of what you want to do sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than after your nipples are bleeding. It's not funny. You can laugh. It's easy for him to laugh. He's got moves. And my last piece of breastfeeding advice is formula. Now, why is it formula, you ask? That's kind of weird, Hannah. Why is your breastfeeding advice formula? Well, let me tell you, but first let me get my glass. I keep a can of formula in my house at all times. It is really important for me to know that if I want to stop breastfeeding at any time for whatever reason or no reason at all, I can stop. I'm having a day where I just don't want to do it. Could you be a little noisier with your popcorn? Oh my God. Takes the pressure off of feeling like I have to breastfeed even when I don't want to. I feel like there's such pressure on women to exclusively breastfeed. There's so much shame and mom shaming in providing formula. It's not the end of the world if you don't want to do it. I feel like if it's detrimental to your mental health or detrimental to your well-being, it's not worth it. And shame on anybody who shames any mom for feeding their baby in a different way. And so for me, I keep a can of formula in my house at all times, and that helps me relax a little bit. Having a new baby is such a wild time physically, mentally. It's so much work to breastfeed. It is seriously a full-time job. The amount of hours that I've spent nursing are basically equivalent to like a full-time job. So feeling super pressured into doing it when you don't want to do it is just not a good situation. So for me, I keep a can of formula in my house at all times because that is my message to myself that if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. I see it online all the time. I'll see moms asking for advice of like how to stop breastfeeding, and 50 people chime in with, well, why would you stop? Well, you should actually breastfeed for 3 more years. Well, don't stop because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it is a giant sacrifice that should be celebrated and encouraged and supported. But if somebody doesn't want to do it, it's not okay to shame them. If you choose to breastfeed, I support you. If you choose to stop, I support you. If you choose not to try at all, I support you as well. I think that's very important in this entire journey. I think it's important to establish a healthy relationship with breastfeeding that way by taking the pressure off. And that is my TED Talk for the night. So that's all I got for today. I'm Hannah, and if you have a breastfeeding journey, let's talk about it. Gosh dang it. Leave any tips that I might have missed in the comments. And if you want me to make more of these, leave that in the comments as well. I am sorry, I'm so dang rusty on Wine Mom. I feel like I used to be funny, and I'm like not that funny anymore because I'm tired. How's that popcorn?
We're all tired.
Everyone on earth can hear you chewing it right now.
So too loud.
Till next time.